Ready. Good morning.
Okay, questions, raise your hand. Go first with Ryan.
Mark, you've played some pretty good running backs this month, including a healthy McCaffrey. Where does Nall stylistically, how difficult is that to prepare for him compared to some of the other guys?
He's a load. I mean, yeah, he it's very difficult to tackle. I think he's unique among all those guys that you just talked about. They do such a good job with the misdirection and the fly sweep and get him in a situation where it's him and either a DB or a linebacker, somebody in an arm tackle situation, and him versus an arm is usually a bad matchup for the arm. So we've got to get multiple bodies to him and account for him, obviously in the run game first and foremost, and then the fly sweep game is a part of that. Bolden, McMarion, they're doing a nice job of playing those guys off of one another right now.
Sky?
Nall's an in-state kid. He made it sound like a lot of people thought he would play linebacker in college. Do you remember recruiting him, or what was that process like?
Yeah, there's a couple guys there on that staff that we know really well, and they predicted kind of some other things for him as far as position, but that's something obviously you never know until the guy's there and you work with him. But he's a versatile, he shows exactly what he is, a big, versatile athlete.
Going in the back.
Offensively, do the Beavers do anything differently with now McMarion at quarterback rather than Garrettson, or is the system pretty much the same since the switch?
It's pretty much the same. I mean, there's unique aspects to each one of those guys. Seth Collins, had his unique skill set as well. I think they're most productive when they've got all three elements of it going: the fly sweep stuff, the pound it run game, and then the play action pass off that. And they did a great job of that against Arizona.
Baristan.
You've been a part of a lot of Civil Wars. Is there one year or one game that really stands out as one of your favorite memories?
The first thing that popped in my mind is probably not appropriate for young viewers, but the student section was chanting for the entire pregame warm-up something at Marcus, which was hilarious. It was awesome. I think they do a great job. Their crowd is awesome, and that was the first memory that popped into my mind. But no, there's been some great games, and it's obviously a great long-standing rivalry.
Austin.
We'll have to go back and check the tape on that pregame chant. It seems like you've been able to kind of compartmentalize things a little bit over the course of this season, where even when things weren't going well, you were able to stay really upbeat. Where did you learn that? How did you come by that ability?
I don't know. I think any job, and certainly this one, and coaching in general at every level, you have to compartmentalize everything. Because there's going to be sunny days, there's going to be rainy days, there's going to be everything in between, and we have to be. I've said it 1,000 times, but we have to be in solution mode. We have to be in how to get it better mode. Pointing out something's wrong, or pointing out what might be wrong, or fanning those flames. That's very easy. It's difficult to stay in that mode, and our guys, our players, and our assistant coaches have done a great job of that.
Sky?
You grew up on this rivalry. Coach Anderson saying yesterday that when he's driving, he sees the O, he wants to pass that car. Does the Beaver logo incite any emotions inside you if you see it out and about?
I grew up in that place, a place that was probably even more predominantly Beaver than Duck. I was always on the correct side of the rivalry, but a bunch of friends, that were Beaver fans growing up, and so I think it's just one of those things you're used to when you grow up in a state that's not geographically split. We're not a place where, hey, on this side of this river, everybody's a whatever fan. Everybody's everywhere.
The back, Jason.
Hey, Mark, back here. Hey, looking at back of the class, just like with your defense, 4-3, adjusting to that. Henry and some other guys have said, it's taken some time for guys to adjust to this, some different roles, different emphasis. Are you looking at your personnel now? A lot of young players. Are you guys getting to the point where you can say, "Hey, these guys are really starting to pick it up, and we're getting the right personnel in some positions like Gary and Wayne and Troy, and on the back end with Brendan and such"?
Not consistently enough, and that's not necessarily by any virtue of those guys, as much as just the availability issue, and we can confirm Rex Manu will be out for the year. Another gut punch inside there, and but yeah, there's some technical aspects to it that did take a little bit longer. It should be a lot easier to make that transition in my mind of being a two-gap defender where you're playing into an offensive player, and it's a little bit more attack than react versus this scheme is a lot more attack, and we've had a lot of not fight, but just you create so many habits. It's like, I don't know, jumping off of 1 foot for every time you shoot a layup, and then all of a sudden you have to do the other. You have to break that habit, and so we've tried to break those habits. But I think the guys, last week again was our lowest number of of mental errors, our lowest number of missed tackles, and those things certainly aren't mutually exclusive.
Austin.
Mark, would you describe your job as being fun? It looks from the outside like it wouldn't be fun all the time, but have you enjoyed being a head coach?
Sunshine and rainbows. No, I got it's a great. I mean, I'm the lucky. I say that all the time too. I'm the luckiest guy in the world, and anybody that complains about this, in any way is psychotic. Are there some elements to it that aren't fun? Absolutely. Another coach in the conference sent me a text message when I first got the job, and he said, "Congratulations and condolences." And so there you go.
Question, Ryan?
Yeah. I was just curious about the end of the Utah game. If was that your protocol all along? If you score late and go up 2 to not kick the extra point, or did you see something like the Broncos Saints game and just think of that?
Just in that situation of a 2 second. 2 seconds. They can't run a play. You're from you kick off to them. They can't down the ball and run a play. And so just tried to eliminate the risk of anything going wrong with the snap, the kick, the hold, or even a run play that you cause a fumble and scoop and score. Then it's a tie game. And so trying to just take that out of the equation.
Sky.
That's always painful. Kind of thinking, or did you think of that along the way?
It's in my mind, it's the case when they can't run a play. If they're in a situation where they can, in any way, shape, or form, run a play to, let's say it's a long play that you can get a penalty, and then in field goal, they're in field goal range, then that changes the thinking.
Without diving too much down the injury road, it sounded like Herbert was a little dinged up in that Utah game. Less than 100% throughout this week as far as that hand, or what's his?
He's 100%. It was kind of a fluky thing. But he's 100%. He's a tough dude.
Back again to Jason.
Hey, Mark, I just wanted to ask you a second question about the defense. So looking at your personnel, it's a lot of the young guys, of course, you're recruiting too, but you like the way the personnel is going on defense as far as the improvement of the defense. And then what can these guys do in the off season to get even better on defense?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things. Obviously, everybody has to get bigger, faster, stronger, more functionally productive by position. We've already talked about a couple DBs that are probably going to end up maybe moving to linebacker, a couple linebackers moving to D end, just all those off-season things that you start to formulate at this point, and then not have guys medically retire if you can predict that, and not have however many guys that have had kind of some fluke-ish type of injuries. You're doing, that's when you go back and you're looking at everything. You're looking at cleats. You're looking at surface, you're looking at weight room, you're looking at all the things that could potentially lead to any of those issues, and you try to solve them as best you can.
Is there still an emphasis in this recruiting period, though, to get half a dozen guys for next year that can come in or you
sure.
feel like your personnel is pretty good for next year?
We're going to recruit as many guys as we can. We'll cap out like everybody else at 85, but we're headed the right direction from a what's the right target to slot ratio on defense.
Kristen.
My question is not about football for a second. What is your favorite Thanksgiving dish?
Stuffing.
Follow up. Are you team turkey or team ham?
Turkey.
Thank you. Your players have all said ham, so.
Well, there's a lot of guys that are screwed up right now. No.
Mark, I think
or both, but definitely turkey.
I think what surprised a lot of people about when you guys had that losing streak was that was a team that had gone to Nebraska and played them up until the final play there. What's the difference between that team that played at Nebraska versus the team that played at Utah last week? Those are probably arguably the higher points. Obviously, a loss isn't necessarily something you guys enjoy, but that was probably the two best games you guys have played.
Rephrase. Say that again.
Yeah. Where has this team come from, that Nebraska game, to this Utah team? Is it the same team?
No. I mean, that's the thing. College football every week is brand new. You've got guys that obviously there's the injury scenario that we've dealt with in and out of guys, back, forth, in and out like everybody. You've got guys that are, whatever, breaking up with their girlfriend or taking tests or doing all these things that change. I don't know if you were always 100% totally dialed in when you were 19, but a lot these guys are doing the same thing and then doing things in front of millions of people. And so trying to maintain that focus, maintain that drive and that competitiveness through all that stuff is everybody's battle. When you lose a couple games, then that's that much more challenging. But I think from a personnel standpoint, there's been a lot of movement. Had a couple guys go down in that game. Tyrell. Who else got hurt that game? Devin. There you go. And so you're kind of head on a swivel, moving your feet every week in terms of who's available, where they are from a confidence standpoint, and continue to improve.
So just considering that, how are you guys able to find kind of that stability last week where, you said you cut down on all the mental errors? That's probably the best game you guys have played this.
That's a great question. Part of it probably was just from what they do, was a good matchup for our personnel at that point and how we executed against what they did. And that's a little luck of the draw, but again, I think the key components there are continuing to stick together and play hard through the one-man errors that kill you. And we still had a couple of those that we got away with. And so it's a constant deal. Does that say Portland City Squash League?
Oh, it does.
Wow.
Anything else? Good note to end on.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks.
Squash on Thanksgiving.